won in so I shared first in 2013, 2015. I didn't win anything in 2016, and I shared first in 2017, and I won clear first in 2018. So I shared at least shared first 4 times.
4 times.
Yeah, shared first or better 4 times out of 6.
That's insane. That's it. It's so strong. I
Lucky,
aspire to be like
lucky,
you, Ilya.
lucky. That's what it's called. Lucky. All right, so let's get and let's get to the game, I guess. So this game really not much happened in the opening besides this moment. So here my opponent played a6, which is not it is a move, but it's not the main line. I believe that one of the popular main lines nowadays is to play e5, and then you have stuff like this, where white can go knight c3. Actually, knight d2 has been. I remember I played this move without kind of knowing anything. I didn't really know as much theory, but I played knight d2 in 2000. I think 2000 was it 2010 when I played in a closed invitational event in Gran Canarian Islands. I didn't know any theory, so this is what happened, and I was down 2 pawns. But surprisingly, this is not easy to play for black because they have troubles castling their king, and white has a massive development advantage here. So I
Mm.
somehow ended up winning the game. Yeah, and
That's a beautiful bishop.
it is. It really is. And then my second bishop came to c4, and yeah, I eventually black had to castle long, but because black castled long, now my rook became quite useful on the open b file as the king was on that side, and my opponent actually got checkmated. It was just luck of a draw, I guess. I didn't really know that this is possible at all. I was kind of upset that I lost 2 pawns in the beginning, but then I realized that wait, I can actually make this work. And I've played this position from both sides as part of the training against some of my teammates in Spice, and yeah, this position is not clear at all. Anyway,
It looks like a
yeah.
Danish gambit almost, right? Like it has like a lot of the similarities, except your bishop's on the a3.
Right.
Yep, yep, yep.
Okay, so my opponent played a6. Now, obviously, I can, since I'm giving a chance to, I'll obviously recapture the pawn back that I've given a couple of moves earlier. And now, here is the first interesting moment that I believe might have somehow affected the game flow. So, what do you think? Where would you go with your bishop to? There are actually a couple of good options.
E2.
E2. Okay. Can you explain your reasoning? Why E2?
I'm thinking like where does the bishop belong? And they're probably gonna want to play c5 in the future. And
Mm-hmm.
they're probably gonna play bishop b7. And just looking at that maybe like kind of natural possession progression, then I probably want to play bishop f3.
Bishop
Uh,
F3.
and then if anything, I can always play queen c2, um, bishop e3, knight d2, a2 castles.
So I suppose you want to develop this for, right? You want to
Right, right,
bishop go
right.
to f3 and e2. That is a valid way, I guess, to develop. But not unfortunately, but I believe that it's probably slightly time inefficient. And what I mean by that is that you're spending a lot of time trying to develop and trying to get this setup. It's probably not worth the time you're gonna spend
Right, right, right.
on all these moves. It's not bad, but I had a very similar thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I also kind of wanted to use my bishop to defend the pawn, but I did it in just some other way, which is to play bishop d3 here.
Okay.
So using a little tactic, right? So queen d4 is not
Right, right,
possible.
right, 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 right.
Obviously we have this nice little tactic to win the queen. Um, another interesting option here would be to actually play move like bishop d5. So the reason for why we would ever make this move is because now black's likely response is to play c6. Obviously, rook a7 is also possible, but the rook looks kind of strange on e7, right? It feels like it doesn't belong there. So if black goes to c6, then we now go back to b3, and the whole point of this maneuver is that now if black ever goes to b7, now their bishop is closed, as opposed to position like this position. If you were to play bishop b3 here, bishop b7 happens with a tempo because bishop is now attacking the pawn on e4. On the
Right.
other hand, If we get to this point, now the bishop is blocked, and we don't have to worry about defending the e4 pawn. Maybe a couple more moves.
But isn't Rook A7 really interesting because of like let's say Rook A7 and then maybe E65?
E65. Oh, actually, this is a good point. The rook can come to D7 immediately.
Right.
Actually, I didn't actually think about that. Yeah, that's a very good point. That's a good point because I'm very used to kind of developing the light squared bishop quickly in these pawn structures. Because we want to play c5 as quickly as possible, and if we don't play bishop b7, somewhere white gets to play queen f3 and annoy black on this diagonal. That's why
Right.
I kind of this a reflex that I have to play bishop b7 asap.
Right.
But yeah, in this case, it's probably not needed because how can I remove all the arrows at once?
Just click on a piece. I can remove it if you want.
Okay, there we go. Right. Oh, did you do it or did I do it?
I just click on a piece and then it takes it all off. Yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha. All right.
So it just looked interesting for me. I was like, wow, like I can develop my rook to the d file. Like it looks pretty good, and then I can develop my bishop after. And now my rook is playing like so early in the game.
It is funny, yeah. It is a very very funny concept that you're actually gonna end up developing your rook first as opposed to developing your minor pieces. This is like an unheard of motive, right? Because pretty much everyone is used to the fact that we have to develop our minor pieces first, and we castle, and then we develop queens and rooks. And yara yara. Here, on the other hand, it may actually be a very time efficient technique, right? We can actually develop the rook over to, or bring the rook over to d7 and put it on the file that's about to get open, right? Because we are expecting the pawn trade to happen, and the d file will get fully open. So having the rooks there makes perfect sense for black.
Right.
Good point. So yeah, I think the reason why I didn't like the bishop d5, c6, bishop b3 is because not only can black play bishop b7 and still play c5 eventually, but black can still play e6 and c5 right now, and nothing really changes, right? I don't really avoid black's plan of playing c5. I can't. That's why I decided that okay, I'm not gonna try to avoid, or I'm not gonna try to prevent black from playing c5. I'm gonna try to prepare for what happens after black plays c5, and this is why I played bishop b3 here.
I had some sausages, so that's why I'm able to teach him. Sorry.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna get a lot of sausages tonight, I guess. From everyone in the chat.
All right.
Very nice. Yeah. So bishop e7 happened. Pretty natural move. I got knight f3. e6. Okay, so now here comes the first part of my plan. So instead of just making a logical move such as, let's say, castle, would be very logical, right? To just finish developing. I play e4 right away. So the reason for this is because I claim that I can castle anytime. But what I cannot do anytime is bother black and make sure that their pawn structure is worse, right? Because right now, obviously, if black takes on e4, we have a horrendous pawn structure, and if somehow black doesn't manage to play c5, both of these pawns will become extremely weak, and it's going to be a pain defending them for the rest of the game. Obviously, a logical move here for black would be to do what? I think you're eager to tell me.
Oh yeah, I'm super eager. I just want to play b4.
Yeah, just play b4, which is the standard way of kind of avoiding the disaster of separated pawns. Here, however, once again, I'm not in a hurry to castle because I can do it at any time. Instead, I play queen e2. So I'm actually getting ready to play on the queen side here. My opponent didn't play c5 here, although I think it would probably be objectively best to do it right now.
Right.
I wonder. Obviously I don't remember what I was thinking at that time. It's been 5 years, but I wonder if d5 is an idea. I wonder if my queen and e2 can be used to kind of get something like this. But even though I do get this check and the passer in d5, this pawn does not have enough defenders. I feel like I'm just gonna end up losing it the very next move.
Yeah.
So I think this probably was not an option. I think I would likely do something like d takes c5 and then proceed it with normal development, or maybe even something like bishop e3 would also be an interesting option here, because now I can even think about taking back with a bishop. Although this is probably not the best, right?
Right. Right.
The bishop doesn't really have anywhere it can go
Well,
to.
yeah. I mean,
So
can we
back
take
to
with the
e6.
knight and then we can claim like, hey, you're not even developed, bro. Like your
We
pieces are
can do
all in the
this.
back rank.
We could do this, right?
Right. That's
You can play
exactly.
f3. This is
Hmm.
actually one of the very common techniques here to blockade the flank-headed bishop. Is to free the f3 square for your pawn and just play f3 and create a pawn chain that would kind of render the black's white squared bishop useless for some time. Yeah. So my opponent did
Okay.
not play
Cool.
c5. He
Right.
played knight f6. Okay, now a castle. Also, once again, I would consider knight d2 first. Right? Just kind of
Right.
keeping to the stories that I can castle anytime. But if I manage to put my knight onto b3, let's say before black plays c5, then c5 it's going to be like super hard for black to get to play c5 because of the knight here.
Hmm.
But anyway, I play knight castle. Okay, my opponent plays bishop e7, which is, I believe, a waste of time. As okay, for example, if black goes c5, I take, bishop gets to take the pawn in one go, right? Bishop takes c5.
Right.
However, if black plays bishop e7 and then plays c5, then what happens is that if I take on c5, now black basically got to this exact same position, but they wasted a move, right? Because the bishop got to move twice instead of once. This is a very inefficiently used time. Should be avoided, right? So you have to ask yourself. So if my main plan is to play c5, then I don't really need to play bishop e7, right? Because as soon as I play
Hmm.
c5, my opponent is expected to take the pawn, and when my opponent takes the pawn, I will have to recapture it, likely with a bishop. So I think the reason for why my opponent played bishop e7 and then c5 is because he thought that he does not actually have to recapture with a bishop, and he can just play knight d7.
Mm.
Right? So it's still not the case. So why? It is what I said still holds true. Why? Because I do what here?
You do whatever you want.
I mean, no, but what should I do, right? To make it to make sure that black ends up
Recaptures. Yeah.
wasting
Like so,
time
you play
because
knight b3 and say,
yes,
hey, my man,
exactly.
waste that tempo, please.
Boom, and we got to this position where black has a wasted tempo.
Hmm.
Because of that, black's king is still not castled, just simply because black wasted a single move. They didn't get to castle their king, and it becomes a major issue. So now I'm gonna take a good advantage of it. Rook d1. Uh, at this point, every move I make is gonna be developing and attacking at the same time. It's a very important concept. I cannot stress it enough that you have to when you play a game of chess, you have to. Your main goal is to for every move you make, your main goal should be to do two things at a time. When you develop in the beginning, your goal should be develop the piece and attack, or develop a piece and defend. Develop a
Yep.
piece and get control over certain important squares on the board, right? Two things at a time. Here, I'm developing the rook, and I'm getting it ready for discovery attacks. As soon as I move my bishop away, it's going to be a discovery attack. Here, I have a direct threat of check, and that would win me a queen. So obviously, now my opponent plays knight d7. Um, not an ideal square for the knight, right? Because what do you think my main plan here is, GT? Let's say imagine that there's nothing immediate, even so there is still nothing immediate actually. That might, as far as I can tell, by the next move I made, I failed to see any immediate, any immediate combination or tactic. There seems to be nothing like that. But still, the knight is not very well placed in d7. Why? What would usually happen to the knight? Where would it usually go?
Like if we played e5, it'd probably go to d5, right?
Yes, exactly. Yes. So my main plan here is to free the bishop. So as soon as black castles, my main
Hmm.
plan is to play e5, open up the bishop, and use this diagonal to potentially checkmate. Uh,
Hmm.
so when I do get to play e5, knight is going to be under attack, and it is expected to move over to d5 because, as we all know, or as some of us know, or as most of us know, knights are best placed in the middle of the board. So if knight would be on d5, it could be, you know, it could have an ability to jump to a lot of different squares, right? From d7, however, it can only go, technically it can only go here as soon as I play e5 or back, but we don't want to go further backwards, right? So we're developing our pieces so that they can help us win the game and checkmate, and not to move them back to where they came from. So that's why I'm not a big fan of the move like knight d7. Here it is justifiable because black got themselves in this kind of trouble, right? Because now I'm threatening a couple of things. Um, Specifically with these discovery attacks, and it's annoying. Although I do believe that there were better options to deal with this than knight d7.
Right, because queen b6, something else. But yeah, you. It's just something
And
because
now
it just looks bad. Yeah.
I would probably play something like h3, but now look what happened, right? Look, we got the castle, and we probably okay here. Actually, knight d5, I'm not sure about knight d5. Is this a possibility? I'm. Let's try to. I'm gonna resort. Yeah, this is not a possibility. I took a peek at computer's evaluation, and this is not working because black has this, and black is much better. I mean,
Hmm.
like much better, over -1 better. So this is not a possibility. And in this position, oh, in this position, white's winning. Guess what? Can you can you see the way white's winning? I mean, I knew this is a
Bishop,
possibility.
just like bishop captures h7, knight
Yes,
g5, queen d.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, and we have a standard bishop
Hmm.
sacrifice.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
so once again, this is I guess this is one of those exceptions where having knight on d5 is not that beneficial. In fact, probably hurts black more. So
Right.
in this particular case, the knight would probably also have to go back, even though where can the knight go? I'm not sure if there is a good square for the knight. I can still do this, right? I can do this regardless of where the knight goes. So this is probably just lost for black. Let me double check. Not quite. It's only close to +1. Although I would say that this is much worse than +1. I have the bishop pair. Black's side is desperately lacking defenders, and yeah, it's just in general I'm loving this position for white way too much. So
Right.
I think it's just very unpleasant. Okay, so let's go back to the game. 97 happened. I played e5, obviously.
Hmm.
And now, for the reasons mentioned before, castle would immediately lose to bishop takes h7. That's why my opponent had to spend another tempo, another move, just to avoid all these tactics from happening. And as you guys notice, the black king is still not castle, which is a big issue. It's
I
going to
have
become
one
a very
thing.
big issue.
Just one thing. Yeah, it is called the Greek gift sacrifice. The bishop captures h7. So good
Right.
job pointing that out in the chat. Sorry, keep.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Mhm. I should have pointed that out myself, but
Mhm.
all right. Bishop e4 may seem like a little bit of a
That's smart. I
healthy
like.
move.
No, it's really
Yeah,
smart.
I'm not sure, but I mean, from if when I look at this move from the side, it kind of seems that this move should help black more because we need this bishop, right? We want to keep this bishop, the light squared bishop, so that we can sacrifice it at the right time or use it to create a battery right on this diagonal and try to checkmate black. So this move may seem uh, illogical at first. But here,
Mm,
actually, I have a very direct idea. So trade
can I?
happens. I think,
Can
yeah.
I try? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so I think we're trying to make the knight strong. Is that it on? But okay, sorry. Go ahead with your plan.
No,
But
no,
I
no,
was
no,
just thinking,
no.
like,
Yeah, you go ahead.
my knight goes to c4 and like dominates, and it's nice. Um, that's the plan I was thinking about. Just like maybe b3, c4. But I just hate that it can trade off like trying to play like knight b6 or something. So I would love to play like bishop e3 and then bring my knight to c4, and then you can never touch that knight.
Okay,
Yep.
so what you're doing here is you're playing a very methodically, very smart methodical chess here. That plan is great. In the long run, you'll have a stable advantage where black will probably you'll have a situation where black will have like lack of moves at some point.
Right.
But here, actually, I'm claiming that I have an immediate solution. So I'm not trying to
Oh,
play like
geez.
positionally. I'm trying to be as direct as possible. And this trade is the beginning of the combination that I had in mind. So trade happens and castle. So this seems like black is almost out of the woods. Queen c6 kind of fails. I mean, a very pretty easy defense against this. Okay, not only is there a pretty easy defense, there's also a pretty easy tactic that actually wins the game for black. What is it?
Let's say we attack the queen somehow. I'm just thinking about 95.
Okay. Does it work?
95 rook takes. Knight takes. That's just a trade.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just a trade. You want a pawn. I mean, okay, it's not the dead winning for black, but you're just winning a pawn, right? So you have a double attack. So I have to take, and I'm down a pawn. No bueno. So queen c6 is not even possible. What is possible, however, is just to develop, and this pin is actually a way bigger deal than it seems. Black queen has no good squares it can go to, and you can see that by what happened after my opponent played queen to c7, which is probably one of the very few square. If it goes to c8, it goes rook c1, right? It makes even less sense. You have it on c8. I guess the only safe square for the queen would be on e8, which makes zero sense as well, because now this rook is completely blocked and it cannot get into the game. So now I'm basically playing upper rook at this point, which is why my opponent didn't go for it. But my opponent went for the most obvious decision, which is queen c7, and after rook a c1, knight c5 happened. So here, this is the the ultimate moment of chess understanding. There is a forced combination. It's not even a tactic. You actually end up not having any extra material, but you're ending up having a strategically winning position. Can you find
it? Okay.
This is not just a few moves. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 moves.
Okay, so how to get a seemingly even position in material in 7 moves but win the game? Or be winning?
Pretty much. We're winning positionally. Yeah,
I just wanted to explain that to them.
Your pieces will be completely dominating your opponent's pieces by the end of this tactic.
We hero, don't ever ask what does it involve, because if it means if you have to ask, that means you don't understand. So just look for it. Just look for it. And I'm gonna do the same, right? Like I have no. You can see my screen. I have no computer help. I have nothing, right? So let's find it together.
Does Ilya have a cat? Ilya does not have a cat. Ilya used to have a dog, which unfortunately died. So yeah, Ilya has no cat. Sad face. My dog's name was Pawn. She's the nicest dog ever. But she's too old.
Oh man, doesn't work. That sucks. Okay. 6 that the knight is attacking my queen because I wanted to play like rook d6.
That's interesting. I mean, I think there are actually a lot of ways to win this game, to win the game here. But I feel like this is like the most that even though you're not winning any material, this is probably the most precise in my opinion. This is why I like this game, because I was able to find this combination and recognize that this combination actually just wins right away, because you understand if you get there, manage to find it.
Right. Like the move that's just like standing out to me is queen takes b4. Right?
That's the most natural.
Right. And the reason is, hey, we're adding a lot of pressure, and it looks like, on right. And then maybe rook c8 holding the piece, then there even rook d6. I just like that rook d6 move. I don't know why. It's I just but that's the one thing that's just hitting me.
I think queen before is actually recommended by the engine. I think when I was analyzing this position, I noticed that engine just wants to take a pawn and play with second pawn. That's it. engine's first recommendation. Not gonna lie. And yet, I believe that this is not the most precise way to win. Even engine realizes after some deliberation in the final position of this tactic or combination why it's positioned way better than just up and down.
Do we just have activity of our pieces if we do
Activity and full domination over and full and our opponent's pieces will all be like super passive, like so passive that they can't move anywhere.
So now what I'm thinking is rook captures c5, bishop captures c5, rook c5, bishop, queen a7. But then it doesn't make sense because now it's like, yeah. I don't think rook, yeah, and then rook c8.
That is the second best, I believe. I mean, you're gonna get 2 pieces for the rook, but that actually gives black some chance. Because the position is so close to be an endgame, and there are a couple of open files, so the rook is not going to be so much weaker than 2 pieces in this case. Yes, that is an option. What else?
I mean, another option is just bishop takes, queen takes b4.
But that's actually probably the worst out of the 3 because
right.
you allow your opponent to go in the endgame, even though it's going to be down a pawn. Black is going to be down a pawn. But first of all, black will have 2 rooks and a bishop, which is a better synergy than 2 rooks and a knight, and also the bishop will be on b4, completely blocking your extra pawn on b2. And if black plays a5 on top of that, it's going to be like nearly impossible to make any good use of your extra pawn.
Right. So, okay. I mean, those are the options that I saw.
You're still not seeing the correct one, though.
Yeah, I know, which is kind of frustrating.
I think you're too focused on that side of the board. Maybe if you pay a little bit more attention to the other side, you're looking at the left. You're looking at the left side, which is understandable. That's where the main play is happening.
Wait, is it queen c2, rook c8, knight g5?
Well, that doesn't really do much because knight g5 we can just take back.
Oh, right, and then we're not really threatening much, right?
Yep. I mean, we're gonna trade the knight for the bishop, but pretty much any trade is good for black at this point.
Right. Okay, I'm not seeing it.
Well, but you have a right idea about it. You just have to execute it in a different manner.
Wait, what? Knight g5?
Right now, knight g5.
Like I don't get it. Yeah. Rook takes c5. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm lost because I would have played almost immediately queen takes b4. In this position, I would have played that.
As I said, I understand.
Yeah.
That is understandable. And you would probably end up winning the game also, but
right. What's the most winning, right? It's
that's
like
not the most winning in my opinion. Like in an engine's opinion, it is pretty winning because you win a pawn, you keep the pen going. Also, you will not really be able to get any more because black will play either probably rook fc8 actually, and then eventually unpin. But still, you have a healthy extra pawn, and eventually you probably will win the game. This is not, however, the most winning. Yes.
All right, show us.
This is what I did. Very, very, very weird. Basically, giving up on the pen, but now knight g5. Obviously, the only defense, which is g6.
G6, yeah.
Once again, the only defense.
H5. And 94.
Again,
wow.
the only defense. I mean, that doesn't matter whether it's queen e7 or bishop e7.
Yeah, queen e7.
Doesn't actually matter. It would end up in the same position, which is this. Now look at my pieces. Even though the synergy is wrong, rooks with a knight, but look at black's pieces. This position is dead. I think black is completely dead here because they will never ever get their. First of all, they will never ever get the f8 rook out. As you will see, the rook stayed on f8 for the rest of the game because of this.
Right.
And now black obviously is trying to trade because that's the only way black can survive if they manage to trade some of my rooks. But even that doesn't happen. So if black goes rook a b8, what do I do?
We don't trade. We can check. Doesn't work. Okay, check. Rook takes. Wait.
Yeah.
Check. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rook takes and give me everything, and then.
Although I think we should probably do it here right away.
Okay, fair enough.
Because now we are leaving ourselves with open options such as knight g5 and knight c5.
Right.
Whereas if we have knight on f6, so in this position, the problem is that in this position there's some bishop c7, which I would actually it probably doesn't really do much, right? Because we have check and f4 and this pawn chain
looks
is
solid. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's probably basically no chance for black. Black still cannot move. So they somehow managed to get their pieces somewhat out, but still, yeah, not good enough. So rook b8, yeah, I would probably just take on f7, and this pawn would eventually fall to two extra pawns. Would be way too much to deal with for black.
Right.
My opponent played rook d8, and now with all the aforementioned logic or with all the logic that I mentioned previously, what should we do and what should we not do?
When I saw this at first, I was just gonna say, play rook e7.
Because rook e8 now is not possible as we have.
Right.
So my opponent is trying the last resort, which is to activate the only rook that does anything. Not good enough. Now we have. I mean, we should probably have asked you, but I mean, it's not that hard. It's not that hard to see. Rook takes e6 now, supporting this guy and also attacking the pawn at the same time. And the rest is actually pretty straightforward. So here I had to see the last trick in the book, which is gonna actually help me win the game easier. What do you think? Okay, here, let's start here. Why? Okay, you know the first move, but you need to understand why do I have to check. So this is called the transformation of the advantage. This is also a very important skill in a game of chess when you want to kill your opponent's counterplay. You want to find a way to avoid complications that your opponent's going to be looking for because they are behind. That's what people who are behind position-wise are going to be trying to do. They're going to try to complicate things so that you can, so that they trick you or try to trick you. To avoid that, you need to do this sequence. What is this?
I think. I mean, I think just 98 makes a lot of sense.
I mean, as a standalone move, it doesn't really make sense because the rook is hanging. A rook cannot really move because it's defending the knight, unless you see the continuation of this.
Right, and then the idea is like what's the only piece that's active for black? It's the rook on d2.
Yep.
Right, and so the only move to get that, and then okay, so our move is going to be rook d6, and the reason that works is because if they take the knight, we take the rook, right? Easy, pretty much easy game, right? And if the rook moves, now we take the bishop, and then we just trade down and we win. So
exactly, they're trading the only active piece in our opponent's position while keeping all of the advantages that we had previously.
Right.
My opponent still tried something. They played bishop g5. I know. I mean, this looks like a little bit of a BM, but I did this. kind of funny.
And the bishop still can't play, which is hilarious.
This is the culmination. This position.
That's really rude.
In this position, my opponent said that he said enough because the only two moves that he could make without losing any more material is king g8 and king g7.
Right.
Anytime I want, as long as the king is on g7, I can play e6 and win the f7 pawn anytime I want. At the same time, I can do whatever. I can bring my king over here. start eating these pawns, right, with the help of my knight. And there's nothing black can do because this bishop is completely paralyzed. It will never, ever, ever get anywhere because of the pawn chain that I've built, and because of these two pawns on a5 and b4. They're preventing the bishop from coming out. So yeah, this was the game that I wanted to show you. You, GT, and all of you people on GT's channel. I hope you guys liked it.
Yeah, and thank you for showing me, because I was for that one thing where we traded and then play knight g5. I wouldn't have seen that. Like, that's really interesting, because I was so focused on like converting my advantage over on the queen side that I just missed, like, how can we stop their play altogether?
Right.
Right.
Sometimes converting advantage is not like utilizing the superior activity of your pieces to win material. Sometimes the conversion is transposing into the position where the activity of your pieces is further amplified by how passive your opponent's pieces are. And this is exactly the case here, right? So in here, while we have active rooks, all of our pieces are active, but black's pieces have potential, right? Rooks can come in if we wait a move without doing anything. Black's rooks will come in, and then our advantage will not be as big anymore, right? Because what is our advantage? The superiorly positioned pieces, and right, more potential. As soon as the rooks get into play, black rooks get into play, I think the game will be pretty much even.
Right.
Here, on the other hand, black rooks have no chance of getting anywhere, and the bishop is dead forever. And this is the difference, right? So now they're completely killed any and all potential from black's position.